Hello everyone and welcome to our Keeper of Secrets launch with author Sarah J Dodd. To start off, I'm just going to say I'm Amy. I'm Sales Marketing Assistant at Firefly Press. The link to buy the book will be down in the description. If you buy it from our website, you can get a free pin badge and signed book plate while stocks last. And also, as this is a premiere, if you want to ask any questions in the chat box, we are on hand to kind of answer any extra questions you have, anything like that. So do just chat to us in the chat and we will chat back. So Sarah, I sent over to you to kind of introduce the book a little bit.
Yeah, so Keeper of Secrets is about a girl called Emily who's 11, and she goes with her dad, who's a vet, to a small village in the north of England, and it's winter. It's about probably a week or two before Christmas, and her mum's died the summer before, so she's going to a new place. She doesn't know what to expect. She's a bit emotional, and it just happens that that village is the site of a project to rewild lynx, so big cats, in the UK. It is something that's been talked about in real life, not in that village, but the story is about all the different viewpoints that people have about should lynx be rewilded or not. But mainly, it's about Emily and a lynx kitten that she finds that's orphaned and how she tries to look after it. And it's really difficult. And it's about being lonely, but having courage and finding friends in unexpected places. So really, it's just the perfect winter snowy animal mystery, I think.
Brilliant, thank you. So I'm going to get straight into my questions, if that's okay with you. So as you said, it's very cozy. It's a couple of weeks before Christmas. It's wintry, and the setting, I think, feels very key to the book. It's very much a rural community. Is there a particular place that inspired the setting, and why do you think it works so well?
There is a particular place. So not too far from where I live, there's a small village just on the border of Lancashire and Cumbria, and it's called Silverdale. And I go there a lot to walk. It's a very sort of magical place. And in the book, it's not actually Silverdale. I've changed it quite a bit, so it's fictional. The village is called Littondale in the book, and all the characters are fictional. But there is one particular corner of Silverdale where there is a cottage, two cottages attached to each other, and there's a farm and there's a wood. And, excuse me, there is actually an art gallery there too, all of which feature in the book in some way. So I've taken the ingredients of a real place and I've just mixed them up with my imagination into something a bit different. But I think the reason it works so well is because I know the place so well. And I know the smells and the sounds as well as what it looks like in different seasons. So, yeah, I think if you write about somewhere that's real, somehow that comes through in the book, and the reader hopefully can experience what it's like to be there.
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting actually about the smells, because a place is not just what it looks like. And I think, yeah, that's really interesting. Is there anything else that inspired the story? The particular characters? So Emily, our protagonist, she loves animals. Everyone tells her she's excellent with animals. Is there a little bit of you in Emily? Or
I think there's a lot of me in Emily, actually, yeah. Or a lot of Emily in me. So as a child, I just adored animals. Every book I read was an animal book. And I used to say to my parents, excuse me, a bit hay fevery today. I used to say to my parents that I liked animals better than people, and I meant it, because I was quite shy as a child, you know, but animals are very accepting, aren't they? Yeah. You know, you can talk to animals and they listen, you know. I pet rabbits, pet cats who listen to everything I said, and they're very comforting, aren't they?
Yeah.
And used to walk a lot in the countryside with my family. And I remember going to visit a farm once to buy some potatoes, I think. And there was a beautiful sheepdog puppy there. And I used to love going to see that puppy. And little things like that creep into the book, how Emily always hopes there'll be like a cute puppy to play with, or some kittens. And there are quite a lot of just tiny, tiny little facts from my life that somehow find their way into the book. The sound of my daughter's alarm clock, the whir it makes.
Yeah.
In the book, Mum has a bright green coat and I have a bright green waterproof coat. So there's so many little things that find their way in. But Emily she's her own person as well. You know, she's very courageous. So Emily is quite cheeky and she doesn't always do what Dad tells her to do. And not that I recommend that, but I do quite like that about her. So there is a lot of me in Emily, but also she is very much her own person.
Yeah. So Keeper of Secrets touches on quite controversial ecological themes, such as poaching and of course rewilding. What was it about these themes you wanted to write about, and how did you go about addressing them in a children's book specifically?
Well, that's an interesting question because you're assuming that I actually planned to write the book that way, and I didn't. A lot of authors are planners, and you know, they decide they're going to write about a certain theme and it's going to be set at a certain time and this is going to happen. And I've tried writing that way and it doesn't work for me. So how I actually wrote Keeper of Secrets to begin with was a place and a season. And I knew that I just wanted to have a girl arriving there, and that's all I knew to begin with. Yeah. But I was very interested at that time in the idea of big cats being wild in the UK, because sometimes you get these sightings, don't you? Someone's seen a panther or something. And I thought that was really intriguing. So I had that idea in my mind. And also I had seen a newspaper article in my local paper, which I cannot find now, about a cyclist in this village of Silverdale who supposedly had seen a lynx crossing the road in front of him. Yeah. So that got me going, thinking, oh, lynx, right? And then I started researching lynx and I came across some websites about the proposed rewilding of lynx in the UK. And that sort of got me going on that theme. So it was very much a process of discovery for me, really. And once I started reading about it, I thought, wow, that is a really interesting topic because everyone will have a different viewpoint on it. And, you know, for children, I think it's really important that firstly, children need to get into nature for their own benefit, I think. So it's important to read about it and realise how great it is. It's good for our mental health, emotional health, physical health as well. But also, I think, obviously, children are going to be the ones as they grow up who are going to be responsible for looking after nature in our country. And so they need to know what the different issues might be. And rewilding is not just about bringing back predators to the UK that used to be here. It's so much more than that. It's about leaving places to nature so that the natural animals and vegetation can grow and thrive without humans interfering and building and concreting. So, you know, it's not just about, oh, should we have lynx or wolves or whatever. It's about, let's save the hedgehog by having our garden with grass rather than concrete. And, you know, you can rewild in lots of small ways. And I think it opens up the whole conversation about what rewilding is and why it's important.
Yeah, 100%. So there are a lot of opposing sides to the argument within the story. Was it difficult to kind of be unbiased and to write from characters' points of view who you might not necessarily agree with yourself?
No, it wasn't actually. And the reason for that is because on this particular subject about lynx, I don't actually have a strong opinion either way. I can see both sides. Yeah. And I do have friends who are sheep farmers, so I can very much understand their point of view. And I think when you think about the countryside, you have to remember that there's a lot more to it than just the ecological side of it. People live and work in the country and it's their livelihood, it's their jobs, and they will have different viewpoints as well. So I really wanted to put that across, that even though in the story, for example, Dibbs, who's a boy who lives at the farm, has a very, very different view from Emily, they actually are really good friends. I mean, their friendship goes through a bit of a difficult time. And all the other characters too. I wanted to show that you can disagree with someone quite strongly about an issue, but it doesn't stop you being friends with them and looking for what you actually have in common rather than what you have that's different. And I think that doesn't just apply to this subject, obviously, but to anything in life. So I hope when children read it, they might think about these issues and they might come down really strongly on one side or the other, but it will help them to be able to see things from other people's point of view as well.
Yeah, I hope so too. I definitely got that when I read it, and I know I'm not the target audience, but I agree. I hope that children get that out of it as well. So on something a little bit lighter, I'd love to know what your perfect reading afternoon looks like. If there's a specific location you like to be, or any particular kind of snacks you like to have with you, just what does that look like?
Well, firstly, afternoon is probably the only time I don't read because I fall asleep. But if I had an afternoon free just to read, I would probably curl up in my favourite armchair. And if it's winter, I'd have the fire going and it'd be all cosy. And I particularly like reading on those dark afternoons when it goes dark, because in the north of England, it goes dark about 4 o'clock in winter. But it's really cosy because you can close the curtains. And I'd have a big mug of black coffee probably, or hot chocolate with cream and marshmallows. That figures in the book. That's Emily's favourite drink. Snack-wise, I have to say it would be more chocolate. It would be, it's a toss-up between chocolate digestives and chocolate hobnobs, and I really can't distinguish between the two, but they have to go in the fridge first. The chocolate has to be cold and hard. That's how I like it.
Yeah, no, I don't do that myself, but I can see the appeal. Yeah. I imagine that's quite a controversial thing though as well.
Yes, that's going to divide people more than the rewilding of links. Chocolate in the fridge.
So Keeper of Secrets is of course set in winter. What was it about the colder months that made you want to tell your story at that time of year?
Well, it was because I started writing it in November. And I'd been up to Silverdale, and my favourite season of all is autumn, September, October, and then going into the winter and leading up to Christmas. And I know when you're at school, teachers usually say to you, write what you know, which is good advice, but even better, I would say, write the book you want to read. So I wanted to kind of capture that feeling of winter and autumn and leading up to Christmas that I love so much, and to be able to still experience it through the rest of the year when I was writing it. So it's set in winter because that's my favourite time of year. It's the time I started writing it, and I really wanted to just create that atmosphere, that slightly mysterious atmosphere of when it's a little bit foggy, or when you wake up in the morning and you know something's different and you get up and it's snowed. Capture that excitement. So in a way, the setting is a character in the book, and the season is a character in the book, I suppose, because they all contribute to the whole feeling. And I think that's important with the book. You want to come away having had a feeling experience, emotional experience. So, and I think winter and the coziness and the harshness of it as well lends itself to that.
Okay. So the next question, I've pitched off a book blogger friend of mine. It's one of her favourite questions to ask at events like this, and it always seems to go down well. So I would love to know what your desert island reads are. So if you were stuck on a desert island with only 3 books, what would they be and why?
This is such a hard question. I knew you were going to ask me this, and I've been agonising about it. So first one was easy. My favourite ever book in the whole world is Watership Down. This looks really battered because it's covered with like wrapping paper from the 1980s probably. And it's got my handwriting, Watership Down. And I first got that when I was about 8. And I literally read it back to back 8 times. I loved it so much. And I think, again, it's because it's set in the countryside and it's animals and there's danger and courage and friendship. So that would be my first one.
Okay.
Very comforting, and I love it. My second one, I think, and this might be a cliche that lots of people go for, but I love Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
And it's a very thick book, and it would last me for ages and ages and ages. And it's got lots of extra bits in the back that you don't normally read, the appendices, but you could if you're on a desert island with nothing to read.
Yeah, keep you going.
Yeah, and again, it's about friendship and courage and overcoming real challenges and difficulties and being far from home. So if I was on this desert island for, say, a year instead of a week, I would definitely take that. And I couldn't think of a third one. And then I was looking through my books and I found this, The Owl Who Was Afraid of the Dark. This is a gorgeous book, and I read it to my children when they were young. And it's about Plop. I mean, what a great name, Plop, this little baby owl, and who's afraid of the dark. And the whole book is just encouraging you to think about things in a different way. So if I was on a desert island by myself for a long time, I'd probably feel quite scared.
Yeah.
But this helps you to think about the things you're scared about and see the beauty in them or the excitement in them. So I think if I was there alone, I'd probably read it aloud as well, just for company. And yeah, it's such a lovely book. And the illustrations are great as well.
Yeah.
I think it would be a real comfort to me.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. I love those choices. Right, last up, I'm going to do a little quick fire round of this or that for you. Very quick. There's a bit of a mix of themes. So we've got some food, some books, and everything. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
So do you prefer paperbacks or hardbacks?
Paperbacks, definitely. Hardbacks are too heavy. And if
Yeah.
you read them lying down, it makes your arms ache when you hold them up.
Do you prefer physical books or ebooks?
Oh, do you know, that's a hard question, because if you'd asked me before I got my Kindle or when I first got it, my e-reader, I would definitely say physical books. And I think I still do prefer them because I love the smell of a new book and the feel of it, and the cover sometimes is lovely. So a real book is more than just reading about the words, it's a whole sensory experience.
Yeah.
But I do like ebooks because when I go on holiday, I can take loads of books and it doesn't weigh down my suitcase. So, but yeah, I think physical books definitely have the edge there.
I completely agree with you as well. So indoors or outdoors?
Outdoors, by far.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee, black, no sugar.
Cake or biscuits?
Cake. Despite what I said earlier about chocolate biscuits, I have a choice of cake or biscuits. Yeah, cake, definitely.
Spots or stripes? Quick fire, come on.
Quick fire, I'll go for spots.
Spots. Dogs or cats?
Cats.
You had to say that, really, didn't you?
I did think about it, hesitated.
Holiday in the UK or abroad?
UK.
Yeah. City or countryside? I think I know the answer.
Countryside.
That's all my questions. It wasn't too bad. So now, if you're happy to, we're going to go into a short reading of the book.
Yeah, so I've chosen a reading from the middle of the book, and at this point, Emily has discovered a lynx that has died. And this is a parent, a mother lynx, and there is a kitten who has been left orphaned and it's in the woods. So Emily is out at night on her own, which is quite terrifying in the first place. And I'm going to read what happens when she encounters the lynx kitten. Emily knew what she had to do. Someone had to take care of that poor little lynx, and it had to be someone who knew how it felt. Dad wouldn't like it if he found out, but what was it that Mum used to say? Sometimes it's more important to do the right thing than the easy thing. Emily backed away further and further until her left foot went through the snow and into the ditch beneath. Icy water filled her boot, but she barely felt it. Slosh, squelch it went as she walked back down the lane to the cottage. What if the lynx kitten went off on its own while she was away? She broke into a run. And what if the person who'd shot the mother came back and killed the kitten? She ran faster. Twice she slipped and fell on her hands and knees in the ever-deepening snow. Twice she struggled to her feet and kept on going. The cottage windows were dark when she got back. Good, that meant Dad was still asleep. The back door creaked as she let herself into the kitchen. There must be some meat in the fridge. She found a tray of minced beef, blood pooling in the bottom where it had defrosted. Tiredness began to drag at her hands and feet. It was such an effort to think about going out into the cold. Should she go upstairs and find some dry socks? It was very tempting. She could just lie down for a few minutes to warm up and have a rest. Wake up, Emily. She shook her head like a dog coming out of a river and opened the door. The walk back along the lane to the ditch seemed 3 times further than it had before. Surely she must have gone past it. Once she even went back to look, thinking she might have dozed off and actually sleepwalked past the spot. But no, she could still see the dark shapes of the cottage and Rufus's taller house beside it. She'd hardly got anywhere. Blinking with exhaustion, she staggered on through the snow, clutching the mince in its plastic container. Thoughts whispered at the back of her mind. Go back. Don't be so silly, Emily. What do you think you're doing? Some of them were in Emily's own voice, and some of them were in Dad's. But she was used to not listening to those, so she blocked them out and walked on. Her own footprints led her back at last to the ditch, where a dark slash of mud and melted snow marked the right spot. A movement in the trees caught her eye. The lynx kitten was still there, darting at its mother and nipping her on her face, her paws, her flanks, nipping and biting to try and get her to stand up. All of a sudden, Emily's plan seemed like the most stupid thing in the whole world. But now she was here, she didn't know what else to do. She tore open the plastic cover on the minced beef package as quietly as she could. Digging her fingers into the red worms of meat, she broke off a chunk and threw it towards the kitten. It must be starving by now without its mother to help it find food. The meat lay on the snow. Emily waited. Nothing happened. A slow disappointment crept over her, beginning in her stomach and tightening her chest and throat. Stupid, stupid idea. Why did nothing ever go right anymore? The lump in her throat grew into a ball of tears, and she couldn't shift it no matter how hard she swallowed. She squeezed her eyes shut to hold the tears in. What was she doing, standing here in the snow, in the dark? She wanted to make a noise like the lynx kitten, just to see if anyone out there was listening. Maybe if she howled loud enough, Mum would hear it, wherever she was. A slight shuffling sound in the snow. Emily opened her eyes. The kitten was eating the meat. Good girl, whispered Emily, although the lynx could be a boy for all she knew. How about a little more? She stepped back onto the lane and dropped another chunk of meat, red against the snow. When it came, stepping and sniffing, she almost squeaked with excitement. The lynx licked up the fallen mince and looked up straight at Emily. She dropped another piece and the lynx crept closer. Back and back Emily went, leaving her meaty trail in the snow. Little by little, on came the lynx. Emily forgot about the cold. She forgot all about her own fear. She just wanted to bring the lynx safely home. It was only when she reached the gateway to the courtyard that she realised, where could she put it? She couldn't take it indoors. For one thing, Dad would blow his top and take the lynx away. For another, it would be frightened with all the lights and noises of the house. It was used to the dark peace of the forest. Dark? Of course, the old outside toilet. It was dark and safe, and without a window, there was no chance of anyone looking in and finding it by accident. Emily eased the gate open and made sure the lynx could see her disappearing into the courtyard. There was hardly any meat left now, only a piece the size of a golf ball. She broke it into 3 tiny pieces and left the first one in the gateway. The second she placed halfway between the gate and the outhouse, and the third she put right inside. It was invisible in the blackness, but surely the lynx would be able to smell it. Hardly able to breathe, she hid in the shadows and watched. Here it came. Step, sniff, step, sniff. Stop. Step, sniff again. It stopped right outside the outhouse. Go in, urged Emily silently. Suddenly, the courtyard was flooded with light from the cottage. Dad's bedroom light was on. He would know that she'd gone out. Emily leapt out of the shadows. The lynx peeled back its lips in a terrified snarl. It arched its back and made a strange hiss growl. Go in! Emily stamped on the ground and the lynx backed away into the outhouse. Emily pushed the door firmly shut. There was a hook on the outside which fitted into a loop of metal. She dropped the hook into the loop just as the kitchen light came on. The back door slammed back and Dad came out.
Oh.
She's going to be in trouble.
Thank you so much for that. So that's all we've got time for tonight. So thank you so much everyone for watching, and thank you Sarah for doing this with me. This is a bit new for us doing a YouTube premiere, so yeah, thank you all everyone for coming.
Okay, and hopefully my website details and social media tags will be below, so if you want to follow me or if you want to connect in any way, just find me on there.
Lovely. And we'll also have the link to buy the book as well, obviously, from our website.
Definitely.
Free badge and free signed book plate if you buy that link as well. So yes, thanks again. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.